What's up, everybody? Ross's Boss here, and today I am reviewing the Cerasani Rules. The Cerasani Rules is John Cerasani's book on how to play blackjack. It's a culmination of a lifetime of playing blackjack and the strategies and rules that he's put in place for himself that he claims has made him a better blackjack player. Well, first, if you're not familiar with who John Cerasani is, he's an entrepreneur who got his start in the insurance industry and sold his company for millions of dollars when he was 37 years old. Since then, he's become a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, an investor. He's a content creator who puts out a lot of content about life and business, and most importantly, he enjoys playing high-limit blackjack and drinking dirty martinis. Sounds like a pretty nice life to me. John is also known for being the guy who put Schaumburg, Illinois on the map. He also coined the term Gen Pop for people who play in the main casino pit versus the high limit room. I gotta be honest, I'm a little jealous I didn't come up with this term myself. I'm gonna tell you what I paid for the book and if I think it's worth it at the end, but first, let's get into it. So if you follow my content, you know I've been critical of people who claim to crack the code on how to beat the casino. Mickey. However, this book is not that. John is not putting out this book in a way to say that this is a guaranteed way for you to beat the casino. Rather, he's saying he's been playing blackjack for 20, 30 years, and these are the strategies that he's developed over the years that have made him a better blackjack player. Now, he does claim to say that he has been on an amazing 4 or 5 year winning streak with very few losses. So whether or not that streak keeps up, we'll have to see. You'll have to follow John and see if he can keep that streak going. But in the meantime, let's break down the contents of the book. So first, this is a short book. It's more of a booklet, to be honest. It's like 10 or 12 pages. There's an introduction, there's a conclusion, and there's about 10 pages of content in the middle of it. So it is a quick read. He breaks the book into 5 areas: casino length of stay, bankroll and betting limits, table play, and money management. Of course, if you want to read all this stuff, you should buy the book. I'm going to pick out a few key areas that I think are important. In the introduction, John talks about how he had a philosophical change about how he played blackjack over many years. He talks about how he used to go to the casino and he would try to win 10x his money. Now, I'm paraphrasing here, but you're bringing $10,000 to the casino and you're trying to win $100,000. That is incredibly difficult to do when you're playing for long periods of time, 8 hours at a time. The house edge is just compounding over those 8 hours. And what John realized was that rather than trying to 10x his money, he could be comfortable with 1xing his money or half-xing his money. He upped his bankroll. So instead of bringing $10,000 to the casino, he'd bring $100,000 to the casino and try to win $50,000 or $100,000. So he realized he could be content with winning a smaller percentage of his bankroll, but still a good sum of money. So to put it in John's terms, little buddy, would you rather win 50% of a watermelon or 100% of a banana? I'm taking the watermelon. Now, of course, this means that you need to have the bankroll to play at these limits, but you could scale it down to be applicable to your needs. I agree with this philosophy just based on the pure math of it. If you go to the casino and you play for hours and hours and hours, the odds of you overcoming that house edge are very difficult. If you play in short spurts, an hour at a time, and you try to win a few key hands, you're still up against the house edge, but you will have an easier time winning in those sessions. So this is definitely a yes for me. So with this, he goes on to give his philosophy on bankroll management, which is basically that you need to have enough money to withstand the ups and downs at the table. And he gives exact numbers that he thinks you should have. Again, I'm not going to give away his whole book. You can buy it if you want to read it. Again, this is something that I agree wholeheartedly in. So many times you go to the casino and you see people playing $100 table and they have $500 or $1,000. There's no way possible you can survive those swings. You basically either need to get incredibly lucky or you're going to lose all your money within 5 or 10 minutes. You need to have at least a couple hundred betting units in your bankroll to survive these swings. Think about what your average bet is, multiply that by 200. That's how much money you should be willing to gamble with, not all at once, but in chunks as a total bankroll. Another point I agree 100% with. In his section about table play, you have to find a game with good player rules. This means Obviously, no 6 to 5 blackjack. What do I always say? I'd rather die than play 6 to 5. If you cannot afford to play a 3 to 2 table, you cannot afford to play blackjack. Save up your money, come back when you have enough to play 3 to 2. However, just to say it, make sure when you sit down, you are not at a 6 to 5 table. If you go to the Bellagio on a Friday night, you will see people who are clueless playing a 6 to 5 table for $100 a hand, 4 tables down from a 3 to 2 table for $100 a hand. The house edge difference is literally 5 times worse on the 6 to 5 table. Now that we've established you're only playing 3 to 2, you do also want to make sure that you're getting rules like dealer stays on all 17s, you're allowed to double after split, you can resplit aces, and you can surrender. Now, John makes a point to call out surrender specifically. Why does he make a point to call out surrender specifically? It's part of basic strategy. Well, he calls it out, and I actually agree with this because if you go into a high limit room with people who really know how to play blackjack, a lot of them will not surrender, even though the book says to do it. I don't know why this is. I think it's for 2 reasons. One, I think people confuse surrender with insurance. You know that you're never, ever, ever supposed to take insurance. And I think sometimes people think you're never supposed to surrender. That's something that they've just have incorrect in their head. The other reason is I think people think the term surrender is emasculating. I know this is stupid. And if you want to test this theory out, go sit down at a blackjack table and surrender on a 16 against a 10. And at least somebody at the table will be like, oh, come on, dude, you're being such a wimp. Why are you surrendering? You got to go down swinging. The truth is it's just like any other basic strategy rule. Hitting a soft 18 against a 10, doubling on 11. Real men surrender. Make that a t-shirt. With that said, there are only 4 hands you should be surrendering on. Sometimes you sit down in Gen Pop and people are surrendering a 13 against a 7. It can go the other way, but I actually agree with calling this out as something that you need to make sure you're doing in the right circumstances because it's such a misunderstood rule. He makes good points on the types of games you're playing, basic strategy, make sure you're surrendering only in the 4 areas that you're supposed to surrender. So is this book worth it? Well, I paid $25 for the book plus shipping, so I think it got to me for about $30. This is the equivalent of 1 hand of Gen Pop Blackjack, so it's hard to say that it's not worth it, even if it's just for fun. Personally, I like supporting people who create content and put it out into the universe, so I was happy to spend the money on the book. But from a practical standpoint, this is what I will say. If you are a player who is not already doing the things that John outlines in this book will make you a better player, for sure. Now, that is not to say you're going to win every time. It could just mean that you will lose less over time. For $30, this is a no-brainer. If you want to buy the book, you can go to John's website, thecerasanirules.com. Let me know in the comments if you think it's worth it. If you've made it this far, give me a like and follow. I love you guys, and stay boss.